Hello, everyone, and welcome to Lipedema Wellness Conversations with Gail. That's me and friends. And my friend tonight is the wonderful, delightful Carrie Reedy. Carrie is a nutritionist in Perth, Australia, and she works with Lipedema Simplified. She's been working with us, it's almost 2 years now.
Yeah, it's crazy, isn't it?
I
How
know,
quickly
it
time
is. It
flies.
is crazy. Hi, Carrie. It's so good that you're here with us tonight. Before we get started, I want everyone, when you get a chance, to know that please put your comments in the comment or the chat and let us know where you're from. Every now and then I'll look and say, hey, so and so, hey, Julie from North Carolina or something like that. And if you have any questions for us, please put those in the comments and chats as well. And anytime you can, give us a thumbs up or a heart. Whether you are watching us live or on the replay, we are glad you're here. Please know that the replays are instant. So if you watch us, but you're coming in toward the end and you want to rewatch us, you can watch us right away, or you can share the YouTube with who you can share the YouTube with anybody. Hi, honey. I know I don't recognize you. I'm on a live broadcast. Can I talk to you in a little bit? Please? Please? Thank you.
Yes, Grammy.
Okay, shut the door. Okay, so my 6-year-old granddaughter just must have gotten a wig because she had a wig cap on and just had to come in here and stand here and get my attention. So as those of us who have grandchildren or children or nieces or nephews or any other children in our lives, they show up at the craziest
I can't
times.
guarantee my little one won't come in hair totally disheveled because she's only getting up at the beginning of the day. She does like to come and check out what's going on, and I think it's a nice part about life, isn't it? That we have people that just
It
want to check
is.
in on us.
And one of the things that we do is we have to juggle. We have to
Mm.
juggle a lot of stuff. It doesn't matter who we are, right? We have to juggle a lot of stuff, distractions and um, wonderful things and crazy things and stuff like
Mm.
that. So before we get started, I just want to say hi to Carol. She's from Bowmanville, Ontario, Canada. Hello, Carol. Crystal is here. Crystal Harris. Cheryl Edwards from Wisconsin. Paige Goforth is here. Hi. Um, Gail has a guest host. Yeah, my grandkid. Julie Morris is here. Julie Morris. Julie Stewart is here from North Carolina. And Marie Farmer's here. It looks like she's from Virginia. And Crystal Harris is from Vancouver, Washington. So she's just over around the corner from me. And Janine's here from Arizona. So it looks like we got a lot of people on the northern continent over here.
Where are my fellow Aussies? They're still in bed.
They're going, why is Carrie up?
Actually, no, it's a very reasonable time of the day. It's 7 a.m.
Oh,
It's fine.
okay. So Carrie it's not too early for Carrie. It's 7. So that's not as bad as I thought it was. I thought it was something, it was like, just like 5 or something.
No.
So Carrie, now that we've got all the giggles out of the way, um, will you give a short introduction of yourself and what you're up to?
Sure. So, like Gail said, I'm a nutritionist. I'm based in Perth, Western Australia, other side of the earth to most people in our Lipedema Simplified community. But I feel really strongly connected with this community due to my own family history with this condition, and I've loved the time that I've spent working with lots of ladies in this community, really helping to give a holistic perspective to all that they're doing. And I think that kind of leads into a conversation or something that I've been thinking about a lot lately. And because I work with so many ladies here locally and all over the world with lipedema, one of the things I think that we forget about is self-care. And now I'm sure all of you that are on this call are going, oh, hang on, I'm pumping, I'm dry skin brushing, I'm vibrating on my plate, I'm going to the pool, I'm doing all of these things. And I think we can very easily mix those up with self-care because they are like behaviors that we need to engage in to help manage our chronic condition. And yet they just are more and more reminders about our condition. And self-care to me is actually being able to have a brain break from the condition. I don't know how you feel about that, Gail, but I feel like we just can spend so much time. And from a nutritional perspective, not only are we doing all of those other things, we're also thinking, what am I eating? Is this going to be inflammatory? What's this doing? Is my lipedema progressing? And we can become so absorbed in a condition. And it's not just lipedema, it's any chronic health condition. We can become really absorbed in it and it can become our identity. And I just think that there's so much to life that we want to be able to enjoy. And if we don't kind of take some time out to just nourish ourselves emotionally and psychologically, then, you know, we can just become so almost trapped in all of that hamster wheel of all of the things that we're doing. I
Right.
think I just saw someone say yes. I imagine this resonates with a lot of people.
Crystal's saying yes. The great big yes, right? And it is true. And we do, and I want to actually, what you've done is led us into a space that I want to talk about what we have going on next week. And I'll touch on that really quick, and then I do want to start talking about this. So those of us who are caregivers or who are parents or grandparents, um, we have a free webinar on Monday, Monday in the United States. Now that I'm talking to you, Tuesday in Australia,
Yeah.
Monday in the United States, and it's called effective parenting. How to basically how to be an effective parent or a caregiver or a grandparent, a spouse, anything like that, while you are dealing with lipedema. And
Mm.
the people who are going to be presenting this are Lisa Drury and Sean. I'm not really, I can't remember what her last name is, Sean, but she is Lipedema Mama on Instagram. And they're going to be talking how they handle how they not only are good parents and good caregivers of the people around them and what they have done to be effective. Now I said good, and that's probably the wrong word to use because you can because you know that's like good girl, bad girl, and that's just that's crazy. Um, but effective, right? We want to be the parents that we want to be, and we need to also take good care of ourselves. And so that's what this webinar is about. I'm going to throw the date up there. It's on September 18th at 6 p.m. Eastern. I put in the comments just now, I put the link to that. So when you get a chance, register for that. And I can't even begin to tell you how I am looking forward to this. Now, my children are all adults. They're 43 to 36. So my kids are all grown up, and even my grandkids are starting to grow up. I've got 21-year-old grandson, and I've got a 7-year-old granddaughter and two in the middle. But I'm still very involved with with that whole family. And I'm exhausted. I've got a husband who has had some medical issues. I've got a kid who's had some medical issues. I have me. I have an aunt. I'm wiped out. I'm exhausted. Right? Um, because I'm the center of my family.
Yeah. And often we are. as the mother and as the nurturer. I think it was interesting last weekend when Leslyn, was it the weekend before, gave that webinar about, maybe lipedema, that mother, the genetic connection. I just think, yeah, so many women that I have met with this condition are just such nurturers. They are the lovers, the carers, the hug everyone in their family, that keeps the glue that keeps everyone together. And I just think there's like an interesting connection there. But I think what
Yeah.
you're talking about is that, we are spread so thin, all of us, we are spread so thin, and then you add a chronic health condition on top of that. And then I just saw, I think it was somebody mentioned that they had a bad experience with their doctor who made them feel like the disease was their fault. And so that just adds like a whole nother layer, on top of all of the things that we're trying to do to manage the condition, all of the fact that we're spread so thin. And then we're sort of told, oh, it's, it's something you've done, go home and eat less and exercise more. And we just sometimes want to like tear our hair out and throw our hands up in the air and say it's all too hard. I really feel for people that are kind of juggling all of these balls. And I think that was such a great analogy you mentioned a few minutes ago. We really are trying to juggle so many balls. And I think this webinar that's coming up will hopefully lighten the load of some of those balls. I think you're right. We don't have to be, it's not about being a good parenting. It's or, deciding is it good or bad. We do the best we can within the capacity that we can, and we allow ourselves the grace to not get it right all of the time, not
Right.
do all of the things that we need to do. Sometimes we need to take a step back and just re-nourish ourselves emotionally and
Mhm.
take care of ourselves. And then we have the capacity, we kind of lift ourselves a bit, and then we go, okay, what's next?
Right. And when I saw someone say, I hear all the time, I just need help.
Yeah.
I don't even know where to start. And or they'll say, I just we'll say, well, what do you need help with? And they can't, they'll say my legs, but they don't even know how they don't even know how to start to put together a question. If I say, well, what do you need help with? It's a blank stare.
Mm.
I don't know what I need help with. I mean, I could start telling you, well, I have issues with my legs. I could tell you what I'm dealing with, but I can't tell you what I need help with, because
Yeah.
it's just so often it's just so much. And, I've got people on here. I'm a business owner and a puppy mommy, right? Well, how do
Yeah.
you, a business owner, oh my gosh, right there,
Mm.
that's a huge pile, of all those
Yeah.
things. Um,
Mm.
and it's just like, um, it's it's just like one thing after another, we get um, we get overloaded.
Mm.
Um, and
Especially when we're told, you got to do this and 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 and change your diet.
right,
There's a lot to navigate, and I think we need to be really careful about just taking one step at a time rather than trying to do everything. If the diagnosis is new to you, um, don't try and do 20 things. Just pick one thing and
right,
make that a part of your habit. Then the next thing, and make that part of your habits. And we really are in this for the long haul, so we don't have to get everything right within 5 minutes, right? I can see that somebody's just asked a question about what's the difference between lipedema and lymphedema. I think that's such a great question. I know there's many probably that are listening to this that are full bottles on all of these medical terms that we use. But Gail, do you want to answer that, or do you want me to
I
answer that?
I can answer that. And one of the things I was going to say is, the one of the first things that we need to do is educate ourselves. And Jelane's question is, what's the difference? I've heard of lipedema. If a person pronounces it correctly, we, and they're not busy adding a bunch of letters to it. I know what lipedema is, maybe. And now I'm told I have lymphedema. So what is the difference? So one of the things that we actually do have a lipedema guide on the website. But lipedema is a diseased, see, it's a fibrotic tissued fat that has pain in it, and it's bilateral, so it's going to be on both sides of your body. It's often painful. It's when the fat gets trapped in fibrotic tissue. The fibrosis starts to develop due to inflammation.
And fibrosis is scar tissue.
It's
So,
scar tissue.
again, sometimes we use these terms,
Right.
so it's
Thank
like
you.
just it all just becomes all mashed in together, and
Right.
yeah.
Now, lipedema is considered a lymphatic disorder. It's considered a fat disorder, and it's considered a connective tissue disorder. So it touches all those bases, right? So there's a lymphatic, fat, and connective tissue component to lipedema. Lipedema is primarily in women or those with um, um, estrogen dominance, and it usually, and but I say that usually is disproportionate fat accumulation from the waist down and the armpits out. So it affects the upper arms and I mean to the wrist often, and it from the waist down to the ankles, and any combination of that, and it rarely affects the feet and the hands. Now, lymphedema is when you have a disruption in the lymph system itself. And so it can show up in places. Like you can have lymphedema in one leg or in one arm or in your chest. You can have truncal lymphatic issues. That's your thoracic duct. So the difference between lipedema and lymphedema is that lipedema is a fat accumulation that is painful and surrounded by um, fibrotic tissue, and lymphedema is actually a disruption in the lymphatic vessels and system. So a good book to read to learn more about the lymph system is Leslyn Keith's book, The Lymphatic Code. And you can find that you can find that online on Amazon. And I believe it has just come out on Audible as well.
I think what's interesting is that as we have lipedema, it can cause some compromise in the lymphatic system. So then we can end up with a combination of both conditions, which is called lipolymphedema. And yeah, so talking about the differences between them, sometimes it becomes more challenging to determine which is more of an issue.
Right. And
Yeah.
and one of the things that we've discovered, we work with Learn, which LERN. There's an ampersand in there. Is Lymphatic Education and Research Network. We work with them because they drive
Mm.
the lymphatic education, and so one of the things now see one of the things that Chris Dale has said is that she was told she has both with adipose tissue disorder. And so an adipose, which is fat tissue disorder, that can be right along there with lipedema. So
Mm.
we always try to talk about lipedema, lymphedema, and lipolymphedema. Usually, lipolymphedema is when it is progressed to that point, And so we have stage 1, stage 2, and stage 3. There's so much information, more information than we can put out in 20 minutes. And so if you really, really, really want to learn about all this stuff, I say really, really, really too many times, but start coming to all of our free webinars. If you sign up for the free webinar we have right now, going, which is going to be on the 18th, you will get notified of the next one. Also, we have what we call the heart to heart. It's going to be on October 27th, 28th, and 29th, and it's a 3-day event. You can come to that. I'm putting in I'm putting that also in the comments, and I'm going up here in the banner across the bottom. I'll put those dates. So if you look for the link in the comments, it's a heart to heart event. Our heart to heart events is a conversation, not only with experts, but with each other, the community. The wisdom is in the community, and the wisdom is in small groups. We find that if you have a chance to speak one-on-one with somebody, or maybe in a small group of 3 or 4, that you're going to probably open up things that you would not know that you've opened up. When Carrie talks about something and I respond, pretty soon our conversation gets deeper and deeper and deeper.
Mm.
And so I do have, hi, Eileen. She just popped in from Puerto Rico. I have found that on the heart to hearts, that we have a lot of people say, I have made more connections and I have learned more in 10 minutes than I've ever made in that length of time ever, because we actually break out into small groups and discuss things. So our heart to heart event, this will be our 3rd one, that's actually called Heart to Heart, and that starts in October. It's a 3-day event in October.
And they are such fantastic events. You learn so much, but you connect with other people with the same condition. And I think there's a couple of people in the comments have talked about new to the diagnosis being overwhelmed. It can be quite an isolating condition because we get misinformation from our doctors. We're sort of, the responsibility of this is laid back on us. There's a lot of pressure from that. And yet we come to an event like the Heart to Heart, and we can talk to other people, and we can, we don't feel quite so isolated in this. We realize there's other people that are experiencing the same things, and we have wisdom that we can share with one another. That's one of the great things about the event, is that, someone will just say, oh, and I tried this, and someone else will say, oh, I might give that a go, and not to, add more to that sort of burden and overwhelm, but it can just, it's like patient to patient care, rather than someone here talking to someone here, which often is the experience that we have in the medical system. So I just love being involved in these events, and I can see like names of people on the call that have been part of these events before, and they really are so helpful. And talking about things like self-care, and taking some of that burden off ourselves, learning more about the condition, I think is a piece of that. But I think we also need to do some things that are outside of lipedema. I know, Gail, you're a singer, aren't you? You're part of a chorus group, and it's about having some external interests as well, so this disease doesn't become our sole focus. I think that's really a key way of giving ourselves some space to just be humans again, without any sort of labels or diagnoses. We can just go do things that bring us joy.
Right. And we were talking earlier before we got on about how sometimes when we do get overwhelmed with things, we don't have that self-care where you say, taking care of the actual self that I am. And I know that with you, when you work with people, I know you reach out to them in a more of a holistic approach. Right? Not just, oh, this is your nutrition, do it kind of thing. You learn about who they are. You learn about what they struggle with. You help them find tiny little steps to get started nutritionally. But it's the care of the person's soul
Mm.
that
Well,
that
I hope I do that.
you do.
I hope that, I guess one of the things that anyone that's been in the medical system for, for any sort of health condition, we become the label, but I think we are, we have hearts and we have feelings and we have emotions, and it is an overwhelming condition. It is an overwhelming diagnosis, in the early stages, until we kind of get on top of, okay, what am I going to do? What's my strategy? What am I going to, think about next? But I think women in this community particularly are so strong. I think that's one of the things that's just been so joyful to me, that, here they are navigating something that's very complex, and yet, they take it like bull by the horns. What am I going to
Right.
do?
Yeah.
And how am I going to navigate this? We've got some interesting questions. I don't know how long we can chat today. So did you want to
We have
just,
as long as you do. So which question do you want me to pull up, Carrie?
well, I was just going to start at the bottom. I've just seen that Carol said she finds the nutrition part confusing. I can do compression stockings, dry brushing, lymphatic drainage, but the nutrition part, when I don't feel like I have inflammation, to know where to start and what to be given, that I also have high cholesterol and suffer from heartburn, and you're trying to lose weight. Yeah. And Carol, this is often the case, because we're never just one thing, right? And like I said, we're humans first. We're not a disease or a label. But um, when we have situations like high cholesterol, heartburn, we're trying to juggle what's the best way to eat for this condition, and what's the best thing to do for this, and what's the best thing to do for lipedema. And sometimes it can feel like, when we have all of these different things, there's just a very, very small bit in the middle that sort of would work for all three conditions. So you mentioned that you don't feel like you have inflammation. Inflammation is not just pain. It is something that is where the immune system is overreacting to something. Some people feel that very intensely in their body. They kind of feel uncomfortable. They're like, oh, I'm so inflamed. But not everyone has that. There can be very, I guess I would say, silent inflammation. And we know that in terms of lipedema, inflammation is a huge driver of this. When people talk to me about high cholesterol, the way that I explain cholesterol to people is, it's like putty. The body's making putty, and it's going around and puttying things up. The question to me is, what's the body puttying up, and why is it going on? Potentially inflammation can be one of the drivers of that. So again, I see a big connection between high cholesterol and inflammation, even if someone doesn't feel it in their body. Now, that said, we can also have familial high cholesterol. It's just a genetic thing that we make more than the next person. But, again, it would be teasing out a little bit, whether this is something that you've always had, or whether it's just something that's fairly new. You're right in terms of, high cholesterol. Maybe some of the dietary interventions that we recommend may not be right now. And it's about taking some baby steps so that you don't flare up things like the heartburn. We do a small group coaching. We've just started our most recent one, but that might be something you can look for in the future, because in a small group of up to 6 people, we kind of work together through some of these things. We could also have a little bit more of a longer conversation. You could even just book in what we call what do we call it? Like a complimentary 15-minute Zoom chat, where we could talk a little bit more about your situation, Carol, and try and sort of navigate which is the next right step for you, so that you kind of have a bit of a long-term plan looking forward, like, this is where I'm going. And like I mentioned before, we don't have to do everything right at once. We just take baby steps and work out what the very next step is.
Right. And Carrie, it's called a discovery session.
Oh, thank you. Yes, it is.
So seriously, everyone, if you want to talk to Carrie, I put her email address right there. It's Carrie at lipedema-simplified.org. And the wonderful thing about Carrie is Carrie's a wonderful thing. No, I'm just kidding. Tigger, tigger. The wonderful thing about Carrie is that she has been working um, with those of us with lipedema for 2 years. And I don't know how many nutritionists that you have in your back pocket that know anything about lipedema.
Mm.
And Carrie is very well informed about lipedema. She can help you find ways to use nutrition as part of your treatment, help you manage different symptoms. And she's now, correct me if I'm wrong, Carrie, but you also know a lot about supplements, how
Mhm.
supplements might interact with medications. And
Yes.
she can talk to you about a whole lot of stuff. And so, because of that, Carrie has just been a wonderful, wonderful coach with us and has helped many people. She's in the middle of a small group coaching session. It started on Sunday, right?
Yes, we've just started,
Just
literally.
started. Just started. How many do you have in there in your small group?
We have 5. Yeah,
Yeah,
so 5
five.
ladies, and we're working together, and we're really just at the moment just getting our heads around some of the nutrition piece. And I think that's, the message that I really like to share is we just have to take our time and work out what the right steps are for us, because it's going to be unique for each of us. We talk a lot about keto and the benefits of that for lipedema. But again, there is no one size fits all keto. And ultimately, we need to work out what feels good for us and use ourselves as that experiment and say, yep, this feels better, or nope, that doesn't feel so good, and keep navigating, because there is no one specific thing. Often that's a question that I do hear on discovery calls, like, what's the one thing I need to do to fix my lipedema? And of course, I can totally understand that question,
Right,
but there probably isn't just one thing. It's like many of the health conditions these days, they're so multifactorial, the things that have led to them, the things that we can do to intervene. And we are still in many ways at the infancy of understanding lipedema, understanding which interventions are going to be right for which people. There's other conditions that have been in the medical literature for a long, long time. Whilst this was written about back in the 40s, really it's only the last 10 years that there's been quality research into what's going on. And it takes time. And going
right,
back to the comment that someone said about their doctor, it takes 20 years for something to get from a medical journal to become mainstream in the medical system. And we're only 10 years into this, and we're only, in terms of 10 years from the first piece of research, we're probably still 10, 20 years before this becomes something that most of our doctors will say, yep, I know the condition, I understand what to do, these are the next steps. So,
right.
it's we are the pioneers in many ways in terms of testing things out on ourselves, and we'll be able to give our daughters and granddaughters far more wisdom about how to manage this condition than
Right.
potentially we have right now.
So, when you say it that way, oh my gosh,
Mm.
it takes 20 years to go from a journal to become mainstream. If it
Mm.
if it's directed, if it,
Yes.
if someone takes it and starts throwing it out there. Allen and Hines first wrote this in a journal in 1940 at the Mayo Clinic.
Mm.
Okay, 1940. And then something was written, what, 60 years later,
Yeah.
right? And now it's 80 years, 80
Mm.
years since Allen and Hines wrote about it in the Mayo Clinic. Um, but what happens right now is we have the internet.
Mm.
Because if I didn't have the internet, I would not know that I have lipedema.
Yes. Yes.
Does that make it an internet disease? No. It makes me have awareness because of the internet. And so when I think about how long it took to start really becoming known, it's because it's only known because we have the internet. Before that, it
Mm.
was just fact. We were
Yes.
We were just those, we were just fat, those ladies with the fat legs, right? And that's what we were.
Mm,
And it was all our fault. And we didn't obey our doctors, and we just carried our weight from our waist down, right? And it's our fault for not being active because um, it starts hurting and we lose mobility. That was all our fault. And
yeah.
now with looking at it, because we have the internet and because we have Lipedema Simplified, because Catherine said enough is enough. I've got to make a documentary. I've got to do this. I got to be seen. Other people need to see this. Because of that, we now are becoming more and more aware of lipedema, and doctors are still going, "What's this? I don't know." And so
And a
when
doctor has to know a lot, or bits about lots and lots and lots of things.
right,
And I still, I had a client the other day, who's had a long history with an eating disorder. Went to her doctor, who she now has lipedema. Went to her doctor, and the doctor told her to eat less and exercise more. I was like,
and
really? Like, this girl's desperately trying to overcome her eating disorder, and that was the advice she was given, because we just don't have enough knowledge yet. But it's
right,
growing. There are doctors now that do understand the condition, and we are getting support. We just need more and more of them.
right, and that's pretty much like this. Christelle says, I'm thinking about her. This is her doctor. Her
Mm.
comment was, "Your legs are swollen because you are fat." So, um,
It's
and she had the gastric sleeve, and she can't eat a lot. So
mm,
basically, what her doctor said was, live with it,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
Um, and so as that's why when we say, okay, if you might need nutritional help to help with some symptoms,
Mm.
right?
And
Maybe it's something, maybe there's something that you're um, eating that is triggering, maybe is triggering your swelling, maybe not.
it
But
could be. And the other aspect to that is that potentially, if you can't eat a lot, everything is slowed down in terms of your metabolism. Your thyroid senses when you're not eating enough and slows down your metabolism to match your food intake. And so there can be some challenges here too. This often isn't about eating too much. I think more than any other community in the world, I would imagine, if we did a poll today, everyone with lipedema has spent a very large percentage of their life dieting. And yet maybe it's not that we need to be eating less, we may need to be eating more.
yeah,
And we could only work that out on an individual basis. I'm not saying that this is particularly a result of the gastric sleeve, but I'm just saying these are the sorts of things that we need to navigate with this condition, that all of the prevailing wisdom is sort of, we almost have to turn it on its head for conditions like lipedema, because they just don't have the same sort of benefit that they do for other people.
exactly. And I do want to put in Eileen Navarro. Um, she said that Dr. Amron has changed her life, has given her life
Mm,
back, and that now Eileen is helping others because that's what she's doing. She's doing that in Puerto Rico. And yay, Eileen, because
yeah.
as we learn and we start finding out more and more about it, we realize we need to be part of a network to
Mm,
to help others who have this. Um, and when you think about a something that affects over 10% of
mm,
the female population, but yet we're told that we have fat legs, that we're just
yeah.
fat, right? So we have to stand together or sit together, whatever. We have to come together and we have to say, what can we do to make this change? There's a lot of us. out here.
And we are a grassroots movement. I just last week, with two ladies with lipedema here in Perth, went and met with a lady in our parliament, a member of our parliament, who then suggested some names of some people, like the head of the Medical Association in Australia. She said, "I'm giving you his name. Use my name. Go talk to him." And I think that this is what it is. You know, we're creating awareness and education every conversation that we have. And whilst it can be awkward at times to have those conversations, this is the only way. As you say, 10% or 10, 11% of women have this condition, and yet it's not getting the funding, it's not getting the research. So, you know, over time, as we keep talking about it, and as doctors have patients come to them and say, could I have lipedema? They're going to at some point have to do some research and learn about the condition themselves. And this is how we move the movement forward, I
Right,
suppose. But it's
right,
hard because we've also, going back to the beginning of our conversation, we're juggling so many balls. This is just
right,
one more thing to add to our plate, and
right.
you know, we can
I don't
only
have
run.
the energy. I'm done. I'm spent, you know.
Yeah, we can only
Um,
do what we can do.
yeah, and Juanetta, she's from Anchorage, Alaska. She just wrote her senators. And
Yay!
yay, Juanetta.
Yeah.
Um, and and I can tell you one of the ways to to help is to be part of our webinars,
Mm,
be part of our Facebook group if you do Facebook. Um, do all of as many things that you can do with lipedema simplified. Do them, because pretty soon, as you become more and more aware of what we're working on, there might be some little step in there that you can say, "Oh, I can do that. I can reach out. I can be part of this." Um, and that's the thing that we do love about our community is we are all helping each other.
mm.
We are non we aren't judgmental in any way. I mean, because it's like we're here together, guys.
We're all in it.
We're all in this boat right now. It's a cruise liner. It's,
Yeah.
and we're all here together. Um, and and we understand. We had book club today. Um, and it was and so in the tribe we have book club on the second Tuesday of the month. We had book club just before we came on here, and the book was sacred, everyday sacred, um, a woman's journey home.
Mm,
And there were only 6 of us, 7 of us on that book club, but we're all crying together, right? Because we were talking about what we get from each other. And we had people who have never joined book club before who showed up. They finally had the courage to say, okay, I'm going to be part of it. It does take courage to say, I want to participate with this group of ladies, with this group of
mm,
people who are who are always there, whether it's I'm going to I'm going to join the tribe, I'm going to go to a free webinar, I'm going to go to the heart to heart. I'm going to watch and make comments on the Facebook lives, on these lives that we have
mm,
3 or 4 times a week. When you start participating, when you finally take that step and participate, all those things that you're juggling, one little piece that's now shared. The weight of that
mm.
is shared, so it's not
What's
so
that
heavy.
saying? A problem shared is a problem halved. I don't quite know how that works, but it does lighten our burden, doesn't it? When we
It
talk
does,
about these things together. Yeah.
yeah. And sometimes I mean I'm the we we call me the lurker. I was a major lurker for almost a year. I lurked. I just watched and observed, and I finally had it was in 2019. I lurked all through 2019, and in 2020, um, I decided, okay, I can step forward and be a part of this now.
Mm,
But it took me almost a year to have the courage to step forward.
Yeah.
and say, okay, I can be part of this group. And it's so we do, and it has been a blessing to be able to share with others and listen to their stories, share my story, and care. Um,
Mm. Juanetta just said we're used to hiding our issues and hiding ourselves. I think that's actually really valid with this condition. We do try to, in some ways we sort of self-isolate. And so being part of that community, even if it takes us a while to kind of warm up to being, a vocal participant in that community, even just being in the background in the community helps us to feel not quite so isolated and alone.
right. And especially when we're told if we do have an issue, when it's implied that it's our fault,
Mm.
then we think there's something wrong with us, and that if I just worked harder at this, I wouldn't have this issue. Um,
Mm.
and that people are going to judge me for having this issue. So we do, and which I believe that we're trained from a very young age to do this. To just either shove the issue down or carry it ourselves, and just and not find value in the sharing, and maybe um, finding solutions. I mean, we might right now. There's no cure for lipedema. I don't even know if a lipedema is something we want to cure. Okay, I know this is
Yeah. Oh, I think that's a whole nother conversation. I think we'll let you explain what you mean by
okay.
that.
So what I mean by that is, um, can we cure something that genetically has been in the line from the beginning? We can see evidence of at least the lipedema shape for, all the way down genetically. So
Yeah.
is that something, there's a reason that's there. And is that something we want to um, totally get rid of? Right? I
Mm.
think what we want the cure for is the diseased or the derangement that's making it have the that, because fat itself is a survival mechanism in our
Mm.
bodies. We have to store fat, but it's what happens to that fat, the diseased fat, that that I that I think needs curing, not the fat, not having fat
Yeah.
itself, because we need fat on our bodies.
And it
That
serves other purposes too. It's a
right,
reservoir of any toxins that we can't get rid of. The body's very careful about, storing them away somewhere. And so, again, it's just when we get that inflammatory response and we get all of these cytokines and macrophages and all of these things going on, and it becomes a bit of a party in and around there, causing all sorts of, it's like a frat party. It's not a good party, it's a frat party. That's gone wild. That's what's happened in and around those fat cells. And so you're right, if we can work on that mechanism and we don't get that diseased fat and that fibrosis in and around it,
right,
then there are a lot of protective benefits to storing a little bit of fat. And I think one of the conversations I often have with people is that naturally, when we go through menopause, our body changes, for instance. And it's grandmas aren't typically super skinny people anymore. Grandmas are got a lap that we can sit on, that can hug us and love us. I think it's nature's way of saying, I'm going to store a little bit of excess on you now as a protective mechanism in case you get unwell, in case you get pneumonia or something, that you have some reserve. And so there are a lot of protective things about this. It's just for us, where we experience the pain and the issues in terms of mobility, that's where it really is a problem. And also, I mean, this would be a whole nother conversation we could talk about, Gail, but the societal expectations,
right,
that as a society, we say, this is how we expect someone to be. We're not very inclusive in terms of we are also unique and different. You know, it's almost like we all need to be this cookie cutter of how we should be, and we're not when we have this condition. And so that causes this whole disconnect as well. But yes,
Yeah.
that's for another time.
Well, and it could be my twisted thinking, you know. I mean, we all know I'm a little bit goofy up there, but yeah, I do, and I really appreciate that. The more information I get. Oh, is it Maddie?
My little one wants to come say hi. Come and say
Hi,
hello.
Maddie. Oh my gosh, she's grown up.
Oh, I'm just hearing about a wound. Someone has a sore knee. Probably my
Oh,
cue to wind up the conversation. Should I come and make you some breakfast? Yeah, okay.
I got really hungry, so I may have eaten a muesli bar.
Oh, okay.
That blew me one.
Let's go talk about that, not online. The nutritionist in me is like, don't tell any secrets. I want people to think that I've got up and cooked her some amazing breakfast, but she's just helped herself to a muesli bar.
oh,
It's probably
okay.
found in the back of the cupboard.
No, I found it in the front.
Oh, there you go. Okay.
Maddie, are you 10 or 11 now?
Tomorrow I'm 9.
9 tomorrow.
Oh, tomorrow. Happy birthday, Maddie. I hope you have a wonderful celebration. And
Yes.
and I hope you have a wonderful day at school today.
Yep.
It's always good to see you, sugar.
You go out and
Okay,
make sure you've made your bed and done your chores.
I can barely walk though.
Oh, we'll hobble out there. Oh dear.
Okay, Carrie. It looks to me like you have your hands full this morning, and Maddie's ready to go off to school after she's had her muesli bar.
That's a granola bar in US language.
Yeah, I figured so. But as we wrap up, share one thought with us, and then we'll get off. Share your favorite thought.
My favorite thought is we need to be kind to ourselves. We have other people around us that maybe aren't so kind to us, you know, with this condition. We need to be our biggest cheerleader and be kind to ourselves. I'm so sorry. Oh, the joys.
Oh, Maddie, I do love you, kid.
Oh, dear. Lucky you don't have the dog and Maddie.
Right?
Yeah.
You're right. We do need to be kind to ourselves. And with that, everyone, give yourself a hug, give yourself some love, and happy birthday, Maddie.